Hey, what's going on everyone? Brenden here with another episode of Gaming Details. In this week's episode, we're going to be taking a look at some of the Fallout games. In 1997, Black Isle Studios released the first Fallout game. 23 years and 10 games later, we have a ton of little details to look through. This week's episode was suggested by YouTube user Childish. We have a lot to cover in this video, so let's jump right in. Our first detail takes us to Fallout New Vegas. In the game, the player will eventually wander into the town of Novak, which is a small community centered around an old motel along with its dinosaur mascot. Fallout has no shortage of unique locations in their games, and I've always found this one to stand out. However, what makes this town even more interesting is how it got its name. In the town, you may come across an old sign that appears to have once read "No Vacancy," but after many years of wear, the sign now reads Novak. Most players might not have seen this sign or even thought twice about the name, but once you realize this little detail, it makes complete sense on how the town got its name. Continuing in Fallout New Vegas, if you're used to listening to the Wasteland radio on your Pip-Boy, you may not have noticed this next detail. The Wasteland was designed to feel empty and barren to resemble the true environment of a post-apocalyptic world, but the developers made sure not to make it feel too empty. One of the ways this was done was by adding distant gunshots to the ambience of the Wasteland to sort of keep the player on edge at all times, so that they never feel too safe from their surroundings. This detail really makes it feel like danger could be lurking around the corner at any moment, as it most likely would in this sort of world. For our next detail, let's head on over to Fallout 4. One of the things I love most about the Fallout games is the way they utilize environmental storytelling when creating the wastelands. If done correctly, the way certain objects are set up around an area can allow the player to paint a vivid picture of what may have happened in the world they're in, without being directly told. For example, while exploring the Commonwealth, you may have come across what was once a laundromat, and inside one of the dryers is a set of human bones. Now there's a number of things that could have happened here, like maybe someone was seeking shelter in the dryer when the bombs were dropped, or perhaps a raider wanted to dispose of a body and stuffed it in there. What makes these details so fun is that they allow the player to use their own imagination to come up with what might have happened. Continuing on the topic of environmental storytelling, once again in Fallout 4, you'll see that all clocks throughout the map are stopped at 9:47. If you're into the lore, you'll know that it was at this time in the year 2077 that the nuclear bombs were dropped on North America in the Fallout universe. But imagine for a moment that you are an inhabitant of the wasteland with little knowledge as to what happened in the world you're in, and see that every clock you come across is stuck reading the same exact time. It would tell you that something significant must have happened in order for time to seemingly have stopped at this moment. For our fifth detail, we're going all the way back to Fallout 2. In the game, one of your companions mentions that he has a heart condition that requires him to take cardio booster shots in order to stay alive. But if you go up to the character and make him take drugs, he will immediately die due to a heart attack. This is a good example of having gameplay that backs up the dialogue said by certain characters. On to the next detail, let's load up Fallout 3. In the Point Lookout DLC, at the end of the Thought Control quest, there's an explosion that occurs at the Calvert Mansion. What you may not have noticed is that if you look over at the greenhouse in time, you'll see that the metal turns bright orange as it's heated up from the explosion. Continuing in Fallout 3, we're gonna head over to the Enclave base. If you go to the mess hall area and search under the graded floor, you'll see a bunch of silverware that seems to have fallen to the bottom. This is a very subtle but cool detail which involves clever object placement, making the area feel more like it was lived in. Think about all the times that people would have been eating and might have accidentally knocked silverware off the table. For our eighth detail, we'll be going back to Fallout New Vegas. If you've ever played the Lonesome Road DLC, there may have been times that you had an eerie feeling that you were being watched. In several different locations throughout the Divide, Ulysses, who is the main villain, can be seen stalking the character. If the player somehow notices this during their playthrough, it would do a great job at making them feel unsettled and on edge, which is exactly how Bethesda wanted you to feel in this DLC. On to the ninth detail. If you enjoy the retro-futuristic themes of Fallout, then you'll definitely get a kick from this one. In Fallout New Vegas, some of the telephones appear to be rotary phones that use wireless headsets, which combines the technologies of the past and the future. I personally love the art style of Fallout, and I feel that when Bethesda adds little touches like this to the game, it really gives it some extra charm. For our final detail, we're going back to Fallout 3. For those of you who have played it, you'll know that there's a sniper who watches over Megaton City, but is unreachable. That is, unless you use console commands to reach him. And when you do, he has unique dialogue that makes it obvious you were never supposed to be up there.
The time I spend talking to you, the less I'm spending watching for raiders. How the hell did you get up here anyway?
Well, that's all the time we have for today's episode of Gaming Details. I really hope you all enjoyed this one. If you did, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave a comment if you have a suggestion for which game we should cover next in this series. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you all in the next video.